I looked at the wedding photo on the dresser. At the end of next month, right before Christmas, it would be 40 years since it was taken. It's faded, of course, but I could still see the sparkle and hope in Anne's eyes and smile. That photograph has always made me smile, but today it brought sadness, because I realised I hadn't seen those eyes and that smile for a few weeks. We were struggling financially, and it was taking its toll on both of us. There had been struggles over the years, back in the 80s when the mortgage rates were sky high, and the time we paid out thousands for roof repairs. But this time it was different. This time we couldn't afford food or to heat our home. We'd never been rich, but we'd always worked and been able to afford the basics, even when the children were little. Now, as pensioners, we were down to a tin of tuna, half a pint of milk, and some out-of-date yogurts. I hated to admit it, and I had put it off for as long as possible, but I had no choice. I had to go to the food bank. I felt so ashamed when I walked up to the community centre in Hampden Park that day. Anne stayed at home. She couldn't bear it. She didn't know, but I'd been the week before and just stood across the road. I wasn't brave enough to walk through the door. Today, I had to go in. There are only so many times you can reuse a tea bag. I kept my head down, but one of the volunteers offered me a cuppa and invited me to sit down for a chat. It helped. The volunteer, called Sue, was kind, and I felt a bit better. Sue spoke softly, and she told me about their debt and welfare support at the food bank. She introduced me to Robert, the food bank's welfare rights advisor, who said we should be getting additional benefits and he would support us to apply. There were people chatting, laughing, cooking and sharing food together at a pop-up cooking club at the other end of the room. It looked fun, but I didn't feel brave enough to join them. I got my emergency food and headed home to Anne. When I got home, I put the food on the kitchen counter. We had something to eat. We were both just so relieved. There was food in the cupboard and people at the food bank who were going to help us out of this financial mess. When I went back the next week, I felt less apprehensive. Sue was there with a cup of tea. She'd even remembered my half a spoon of sugar. And Robert had good news. We were going to be better off. It would take a few weeks for the payments to start, but some would be backdated, and we wouldn't need the food bank anymore. In the meantime, we could get the essentials. One week, there were even some fresh flowers which had been donated, and I was able to take a bunch home for Anne. Things were looking up, and I saw her sparkle slowly start to return. Over the 6 weeks that I used the food bank, I moved closer and closer to the chatting and laughing at the cooking club. I told them about Anne's delicious corned beef hash, and she gave me the recipe to cook and share with other people using the food bank. Everyone at Cooking Club was really friendly, and I told Anne how much they loved the dish, but she still didn't want to come with me. When the first payment went into our bank account, we were so relieved our nightmare was finally over. That was our life-changing moment. Together, we went back to the food bank to thank Sue and Robert. But this time, we didn't need the emergency food, and that felt so good. We had a cup of tea with Sue in the community cafe, and I was very excited to introduce Anne to everyone at the cooking club. My new friends needed to meet my wife and the creator of that delicious corned beef hash. Anne hit it off with Jess at Cooking Club, and they chatted as they chopped onions together. Anne and I are now volunteering at Cooking Club, and we never miss a session. Sparkle and hope has returned for Anne, just in time for Christmas.
Your donations meant Mike and Anne had food in their cupboards, were supported out of financial crisis, and empowered to share their cooking expertise to support others. Because of your donations, we can provide a package of support to spark hope. Mike and Anne are now able to give back to their community and share that hope with others using the food bank. And that is down to you. Be the life changer this Christmas.